Hi, and welcome to this Tech Talk, Troubleshooting Jabber Registration via MRA using the Expressway logs. My name is Maren Mahoney. I'm an instructor at Sunset Learning and your host for this session. This is the fourth of 4 Tech Talks I gave this week. I did a pair on QoS topics surrounding collaboration. Earlier this morning I did one, the Cisco dialed number analyzer and route parameter report, how to troubleshoot, especially globalized call routing, because there's so much digit manipulation that happens inbound and outbound. How do I troubleshoot that dial plan using these tools that are built into Cisco Unified Communications Manager? And then this session is about MRA registration. What I have in my lab, I've got an Expressway CE pair. They are already configured and connected. I have a Jabber 12 something, I don't remember, and Call Manager 12.5. I'm not including IMP or Unity connection in this particular scenario, but I certainly could. Mostly I want to get the phone itself registered. So what I have is I've got a remote PC, and it's actually inside my lab, but cannot get to the call manager itself directly. I have that through the magic of my lab again, able to get to the Expressway-E, which can get to my Expressway C, which gets to call manager, of course. Oops, let me try that again, which gets to call manager, of course. And then I have an on-prem PC that is connected to call manager with another Jabber client that is registered. So this is sort of the overall flow. The Expressway CE traversal tunnel is already in place, up, stable, and established. Ditto the connection between the Expressway C and the call manager. I didn't want to troubleshoot those because if those things aren't working, no one is registering. What I want to focus on is I have this one random client externally that can't register, and how do I use the logs on this E and the logs on the C to see if I can figure out what the problem is. Looking at that, what do I look for, like in call manager or whatnot, to make things go. So that's where we're headed. Let's take a look. All right, let me get into my remote PC here. Come on, there we go. So here is my remote PC. I am already logged into my Expressway C and my Expressway-E and my call manager. And let's launch Jabber and see what happens. Now, as you know, the first time you launch Jabber, anytime you're early launching Jabber, it takes a while for it to register. So patience, if you please. Our user is swhite at pod1.sli-uclabs.com. And of course, we're going to wait for a little while. Finding services, finding services. One of the things we're going to note as we go through this troubleshooting, as you are probably aware if you do any Jabber troubleshooting already, is that the error messages we get on Jabber are not necessarily related to what the problem might be. Now, this one says cannot communicate with the server. Importantly, what I want you to notice is that it didn't do any kind of name resolution. It didn't include the name, it didn't bring back the name. So this sort of, and I happen to know this, this tells me that it might not be even talking to the Expressway-E. But these are the kinds of subtle changes in Jabber that can help you, again, understand where the client is in the process of registration. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Expressway-E, right? And see if I get there at all. I should see some kind of a connection request, like in the network log, from the IP address of this PC, which is 10.1.7.9, and I don't. I see the connections for the Expressway CE tunnel, the keep alives. If I look in the event log, I should see some kind of registration request, and I don't. The last thing I see is the admin session start. So what this tells me is that I'm not seeing anything in the Expressway-E log related to this particular Jabber client. So this tells me that maybe it can't communicate with the server. It can't get to even the Expressway-E. Well, let's check DNS. So I'm going to do a NS lookup. Set type equals SRV. And of course, we are looking for our collab edge _TLS record. And I can see that it does resolve to the Expressway-E's FQDN, but what I don't see here is it resolving to the IP address of the Expressway-E. So the Jabber client in its own log would know where that it should talk to the Expressway-E, but it would not have the IP, so can't communicate with server. Well, I happen to have a router just providing some basic DNS services. So let me go ahead and add the IP host command that I need in here. Big T, I have it saved somewhere else, right? And this IP host command is taking that FQDN of the Expressway-E and giving it an IP address. So there we go. Now, if I go in and I try my Expressway or my NS lookup again, it should resolve to an IP. Now, in general, if your external DNS is not resolving your Expressway-E to an IP address, then nobody's working again, right? That's sort of a binary all or nothing thing. But that doesn't mean that this particular PC is correctly resolving DNS. So one of the things to look for when you're looking for a Jabber client registration is, do I see the attempt in the Expressway-E log? Another thing I could have done in the Expressway-E log is I could have gone into the event log here and done a search for the username. I should see that. Now I'm going to see some previous entries from my previous troubleshooting steps. Oh, I guess not. Probably in the network log then. Let me get there. All right, S White. And I'll see some things in here, but this is from earlier attempts, right? So that doesn't help us today, but you get the idea, right? We're looking for that. Okay, so now that I have, I correctly have DNS, right? And if I go now into regular here and I do IP config, display DNS, I'm going to see that's interesting. It shouldn't be going out there, but it's showing me what I'm not seeing, I should say, is the Expressway-E. So let's try again, sign in. And now I'm getting the certificate thing. So this would be the first time this particular Jabber client is connecting, but this tells me that it found the thing. It can't request the service certificate if it can't get there. So again, finding services, and this is going to take a little while. Cannot communicate with the server again. And notice I have my little sign in thing again. Well, going back to my Expressway-E, do I see anything new from a network log standpoint? Looking for a connection in from my S White user, and there we go. Here's the it received, right? A request. And in here somewhere, there's going to be the sent back to the IP address. Here we go, 401. 401 saying 401 is unauthorized, right? So there's something wrong here. And if I go into now the event log, I see that I've got another error message here. And specifically, here's my admin session start. So this is when I logged in. Access denied. MRA not supported for pod1.sli-uclabs.com. 403 forbidden. So there's some kind of a domain problem going on here. Now, in this case, I have deliberately misconfigured my C and my E to generate this error. And let me go ahead and fix it real quick, and then I'll explain why that 403 forbidden is important. Here's the deal. As you know, it is not uncommon for an internal domain, which is what the users would use in order to register with, they log in to Jabber, because if they're on-prem, they're going to use their internal domain. But then have the external domain be a different domain. The actual DNS on the public internet is going to be a different domain that they should resolve in the event they're doing expressway connectivity. And in this case, and this is where we're going with this, how you would fix that is in the Jabber config XML file, you would have that, that parameter that says, here is the domain you should use when you talk to your expressways. And that would be the internal one. And it's not doing that. So in this case, if you say MRA is not supported for the user, right? Let me go back to that message here. If you see, MRA is not supported for this user, wherever that went, there we are, then look at the domain it's requesting. Is that the correct domain? Is that the domain that the MRA pair is configured with? If it is not, do you have that internal-external domain problem? So there's another problem that you can see. All right, well, let's try our Jabber client again. Sign in. Cannot communicate with the server. Okay, well, we still have a problem. And importantly, what I'm getting back again is I'm not getting back the username. And in fact, let me go ahead and just do a reset on Cisco Jabber and let me try again. And the reason is it actually should be at least partially getting back to the the call manager here. And it should at least leave the pod1.slide.suclabs.com alone. The thing about that is when the Jabber client comes back and when the Jabber client comes back and you see the username remain, and when the username gets wiped out, that means that the Jabber client can't talk to call manager itself. So you definitely have an Expressway CE problem. The fact that I get the username coming back and it says, enter your username and password for phone services. Who's giving me phone services? Call manager is. So when you see something like this, when you see the username come back and at least it's asking for a password, it was able to get through the Expressway CE pair and it is now talking to call manager. So let me go ahead and put the password in. Probably should have done that while we were waiting for this to cook, because this is going to say again, it's not working. And this is going to be one of those examples where the error message shown doesn't really have anything to do with the actual problem. So momentito here. Username or password is not correct. Well, tell you what, I can guarantee you that the username is correct, and I can guarantee you that the password I just typed in is correct. So what is the problem? Well, again, let's take a look at our Expressway C and our Expressway-E. So on the Expressway-E, I'm going to be going in and then let's look at the event log. And I can see a 401 unauthorized. Okay, well, that's not good. I should see the next connection failed here, a 502 error. So I've got some kind of problem with the ability for the device to get to call manager itself. Let's look at the network log. Here, all I see is the connectivity. This is the old one, the connectivity for the CE pair. So this is not it. Now that said, yeah, for the CE pair. Okay. So let's take a look at the Expressway C. The Expressway-E is just telling me 401 forbidden and not really showing me anything in the network log. So let's take a look at the Expressway C and if it gives me better information. I'm going to go again to the status messages. Let's go to the event log. Come on. I'm having a real problem with that. This log down here, the list of logs doesn't want to pop up. Okay. So here I see S. White trying to provision, and it's saying here request failed, UDS user request failed, unknown user. And importantly, somewhere in here, it should say unable to determine home cluster, which is what we're looking for next. But UDS cluster request failed. Oh yeah, there we go. Unable to determine home CUCM. How does call manager know which cluster a particular Jabber client is hosted on, where is it homed? The home cluster checkbox. So when you see unable to determine home CUCM, for whatever reason, the call manager doesn't believe, at least whichever one the user is going to, doesn't believe that it's homed on that cluster. And that can be one of two things. I'm going to go ahead and check that home cluster checkbox. That can be one of two things. If you only have a single cluster environment, then as I'm about to show you, it just means that the home cluster checkbox is not checked, right? And we can see I just checked it there. Importantly, if you have a multi-cluster environment, remember that you either need to have the cluster view UDS working and connected, or the ILS network set up so that the clusters can share home cluster checkbox information, A, and B, that home cluster checkbox has to be consistently checked in the right clusters, meaning if I have 2 or more clusters, I only want that home cluster checkbox checked on one of them. And in the event I have it checked on more than one, and the client's going to the wrong cluster, I'm going to get a little bit different errors, but this is indicative of the idea that that home cluster checkbox is crucial to proper function of Jabber clients. I did a webinar for Cisco last year, 2020, on the bulk administration tool, practical BAT tips and tricks, right? And one of the things I did was I showed how to export information out of a cluster, including the home cluster checkbox and device association, so that you could make sure that users that have Jabber clients have that home cluster checkbox checked, and users that don't have Jabber clients don't have it checked. If you did that kind of thing on all of your clusters, you'd have the ability to have that home cluster checkbox be consistent. And that's a non-trivial thing. You certainly don't want to do that by hand. Okay, well, let's go back to our Jabber client now. And I'm going to go ahead and just reset Cisco Jabber here. And I'm going to try swhite. Oops. swhite at pod1.sli-uclabs.com. And let's try again. And once again, we're going to get another problem. And we're going to, in this case, we're going to get, guess what? We're going to get username or password not correct again. Although the last time I said ahead of time the error message you're going to get, the thing behaved not the way I expected. So we'll see how that actually goes. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, and cbang SCO123. Noting again, it is talking to call manager because that phone services thing is happening here. I got through the CE pair. Okay, again, username or password is not correct. And I can guarantee you that yes, it really is. So let's take a look at our Expressway logs. I'm going to start on the Expressway-E, and we're going to take a look in the event log. And what I'm going to see again is a 401 unauthorized. 401 unauthorized, it's getting a disconnect for this, right? 502 next hop connection failed. So it got from the C to the E, but it's sending this response back to the Jabber client that the next hop connection failed. So effectively, the CE pair is telling the Jabber client that it couldn't get there because it's unauthorized. Okay, let's take a look at the Expressway C. Am I looking in the right log? I'm supposed to be seeing a 403 403 error. I don't see it here. Maybe that's the one on the Nope. Okay. It's got to be on the C then. I'm just looking in the wrong spot. Let's look at our event log again. And request failed for this user, unable to determine home CUCM. We already did that. So what else could be the problem here? No home cluster found for the user. Let's take a look at our network log. So think about that. I know that did I save? Oh, I didn't save it. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. I apologize here. Truthfully, this is not my first time trying to record this thing, and every time it's just been so much fun because weird things keep happening. I keep forgetting this or keep forgetting that. And I have this whole process like, decked out so you can see everything. Let's give this a try. Hopefully I'll see what I'm supposed to be seeing here. Okay, again, username and password is not correct, not an error that's useful. If I go into the Expressway-E event log, now hopefully, oh, I still see a 401. Well, and yep, I don't see it there. Let's take a look at the event log here. And again, request failed, still giving me unable to determine home CUCM. I wonder if I have to do a reset on Cisco Jabber to get this to go, because you and I both see specifically that that home cluster checkbox is checked. Let me do a reset and try one more time here. Okay, S-White, pod1.sli-uc labs.com. Okay, and password. And it's going to wait a moment. If this were live, I would also be asking at this point if people had questions, which I can't do. Mostly right now I'm trying to waste time, spend time while this thing is spinning. All right. Okay, let's see if we're seeing again what we're supposed to be seeing here. So status, if I go into the event log, gosh, there we go. Still getting a 401. All right, well, you know what? I am going to punt on that. Again, I'm supposed to be seeing a 403, not a 401, forbidden. And I'm seeing just the 401 unauthorized here, right? Okay, well, Expressway C. Request failed, unable to determine home CUCM. I don't know why it's still telling me that, even though it has it there. Now, all attempts to authenticate user failed to authenticate against server, which is why we're getting the 401 error back. But that's not actually the problem, because we know that the home cluster checkbox is indeed checked. So what else might be the problem? I should be getting a 403 forbidden error. And like I said, I'm not sure why suddenly it's decided not to do that. The problem in this case, if you know that the home cluster checkbox is checked and you're still unable to connect, the next thing with Jabber, oftentimes once you're getting back to Call Manager itself, it's, check the config, make sure everything's working properly. The 403 error should be about the fact that I'm not in the end user groups. Because think about that. You have to have access to the CCM end users group. And if you don't, you are forbidden for logging in. And additionally, while we fix this, we're also going to be adding them to the standard CTI enabled, because that's a useful thing to do if they have any hardware. So let me grab those, add selected, save. That did not go as expected. And going back here, we're going to reset Cisco Jabber again. And S-White at pod1.sli-uclabs.com. Okay, cannot find your services automatically. Oh, now that's a little bit different problem, isn't it? So let's take a look again at our Expressway-E and our Expressway C. Normally, I'd think to myself, if you can't find your services automatically, you don't have a Jabber config XML file, or it can't get to the TFTP server. So let's see what the problem might actually be. We're going to look in the event log over here, and I get a 404 not found. I can see that I'm getting to the system here. I can see the S-White trying to come in, but I'm getting a 404 error. And if I look at the Expressway-E network log, right, again, this is just the establishment. So let's take a look at the event log over here. The event logs are really where you want to focus. The network logs are handy if you want to be able to see anything. So request allowed, you're in the allow list, right? So you can get to this call manager. Well, that's strange, because now I'm not seeing any error messages at all, other than the one here in the event log about 404 not found. Again, what I should be seeing, gosh, this is really annoying. What I should be seeing is a proxy error. And I should be seeing a proxy error actually in the network log for the next problem. And I am not seeing the logs I'm supposed to be seeing here. Is it down here? Network traffic server. Okay, messages, 404 not found. No, I'm not seeing the proxy error. Okay. So we have our home cluster checkbox checked. We have the user in the right groups, but it cannot find my services automatically. The network log, or it should say the event log in my Expressway-E is saying a 404 not found, and yet we know that that user exists. We know that the user exists. We know that the services are there. It does have a Jabber config XML file it's going to download. I can guarantee you that because I have another user that's using it. So there's some other kind of problem. If I go to the Expressway C and I go to the event log here, I'm seeing it actually saying, yes, you can get to call manager. And that's going to have to do with the fact that we do have the service not found for edge config response cup login. Oh, there we go. I knew it was in here somewhere. So this was the UDS cluster unfailed. It's an unknown user. Now, it's not saying that it's not a home cluster, but it's not a known user. And if I look at the actual error messages here, S White, the provisioning, SSO request, we're not doing SSO as it happens. We authenticated the user successfully. So that's a good thing. That means that the password did work, even though the Jabber client told us the password was not correct. But now we're talking about service not found. So why is the service not being found? We need to figure that out. So if I go into now the network log, let's hope it shows me what I should be seeing. But the fact that I saw the successfully authenticated means that, again, we've got the password correct and we have the user groups correct. Here are all my 401s from before. 401 not authorized. Let me try one more time in here. I'm just still getting the 404. Okay. What I should be seeing, and I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it, I should be seeing a 407 proxy error. In the Expressway-E network log, I should be seeing a proxy error. And that proxy error is literally just saying that here's my 401s though, while the user is being authenticated, is being authorized using the end user groups and all that, there is no way to proxy the object. The Jabber client itself is not able to get to the call manager to register. And the reason for this is, in my call manager, I have neither associated the user with the control device, which I need to do. Yeah, there we go. Save selected changes. And the other thing we should check, and this would be a rare thing to happen in a production environment, but work with me here. This is the CSF for Susan. This is the Jabber client that she is working on, but she's not the owner. So having found those things, now we're going back to our Jabber client, and we're going to try logging in one more time. Now it should be successful. I probably needed to reset the Cisco Jabber client in between each one because it already had certain information, right? That's what our deal is. Okay, and there she goes. She is registered. Ta-da. So That's the troubleshooting. You're looking in your Expressway-E event logs and network logs. You're looking for the error message 401, 403, 407. You can do searches on the user account, right? S. White. You can do searches on the IP address if you happen to know it for the requester that's coming in. You can do this on the Expressway C, and you can do this on the Expressway-E. Make sure you check both the event logs and the network logs as you're looking for these things, because sometimes you'll get the error messages in one or the other, depending on the actual type of error message. Right. I hope this was helpful. It didn't work out exactly as I had hoped with regards to the troubleshooting. And that's the interesting thing about troubleshooting labs. Sometimes you have to troubleshoot the troubleshooting. I've done that before, but I hope it was helpful. If you have questions about this video or any of the other videos, please come and to the Sunset Learning website and post them, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for coming, and have a good day.